Hello there. Well, this is different. I hope you're all keeping safe and well, and we can soon all meet up under normal conditions, whatever that may be. For those that don't know me, where have you been? I'm Andy Ewens from FormaServe, where I've worked for the past 30 years. I have over 40 years IT experience with 37 years IBM mid-range experience, working with the System 34, System 36, AS400s, iSeries, and now IBM I. My specialities are RPG, PHP, Zend, Zend Server, Zend Frameworks, DB2, and now Node.js. I'm an accomplished instructor and a technical writer specialising in programming on the IBM I. Prior to my IT career, I was proud to have served 10 years in the Royal Navy as a communications expert. Before I start, let me clarify that all my views expressed are solely mine and do not necessarily coincide with anybody else's. All other legal bumps can be found on our website. That's enough about me. Let me give you a quick overview of our company. FormaServe Systems is a leading provider of IBM I support, education and consultancy and has been in operation for the past 30 years. We are completely dedicated to providing clients state-of-the-art essential products and services on the IBM I on power systems. Our staff have been working with IBM I since the announcement of the AS400 way back in 1988. We are very active in the user group community such as the IUG in the UK and Common, promoting the platform through social media, newsletters, conference speaking and more. Our latest endeavour is helping our clients to adopt new technologies on IBM I, such as open source. That is a lot easier said than done, I'm sure you'll agree. In our view, the UK IBM I market base is very blinkered when it comes to change. How many times have we heard, "I've done it this way for the past so many years, why should I change?" Maybe one day they will listen. We can all hope. Let us get on with this presentation. Having heard of our journey with Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, known as HMRC, IBM asked if we mind using them as a customer story. I'll be giving you a walkthrough of our customer story on how we use the IBM I to allow customers to file VAT, value-added tax, to the UK government. This all came about because the HMRC, in their wisdom, changed how companies reported their value-added tax. Hopefully we don't have any tax inspectors listening in today. How was VAT reporting originally done? Good old pen and paper. Fill in the 9 VAT boxes and send off the money. About 20 years ago, HMRC moved this filing onto their website on a portal called the Government Gateway. And as with the paper route, the users might not enter the correct figures for their tax returns. As we all know, typos do happen. And so, in 2019, they moved fully over to the Making Tax Digital method of filing the company's VAT. And this is where we come in. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs introduced Making Tax Digital, or MTD for short. This is not optional. All value-added tax registered companies over the VAT threshold of £85,000 have to use this method of reporting and submitting their VAT returns. Figures have to be electronically transmitted from start to end. From invoicing and purchasing to submission, no one can get their grubby little hands on the data, hopefully reducing the typos. A couple of years ago, we were approached by one of our clients, a small engineering company in Scotland with no IT department, on how they used their IBM I to transmit data to HMRC for Making Tax Digital. This company uses software that was written for the System 36 way back in the early 80s. It served them well, with minimal intervention throughout the years to their complete satisfaction. Their complete business runs on IBM I, from financials, parts, inventory, job management and quotations. Their question was, which menu option do we take to transmit our VAT returns to HMRC? Luckily, we had persuaded them to keep their hardware and operating systems up to date, and so we could say, yes, of course your machine can do it. even with your software being written way back then. It wasn't long before our other clients got wind of Making Tax Digital and began to ask the same questions. Here we can see a snapshot of our diverse clients. Number 1 there, customer running System 36 financials. Lots of OCL, lots of RPG2, is about as modern as it gets. Everything on IBM, just very old code. No IT department, but it still works so well, why should I change it? A customer Sage, everything running on IBM except the financials. They weren't a Sage fan by a long way, so it was easy sell to get them to export the VAT figures to our IFS and let MTD take it from there. Customer-owned bespoke software is number 3, obviously placed for customer to process this task. They weren't a fan of cloud-based solutions and wanted full control. As our software had to run on their IBMIs, you can imagine it had to cope with many different scenarios. We have developed bridging software running on the IBM server. The idea of a bridging product was that it had to cope with the individuality of clients' existing procedures. It doesn't matter if they are running SAP, JDE, JBA, etc., the operation is seamless. It receives information from either an API call, data areas, an Excel spreadsheet, and there is also an option of importing a file. This option has proved very handy for our customers that run the Sage financial package and have exported their figures to an export file. Once we have this information, we give the VAT man a call and tell him we have some dosh coming his way. From an accountant's point of view, not a lot has changed. They still send the same information and for them it is seamless. Behind the scenes, all very different. So how did we do this? Technology on our favourite server was readily available. We spent some time looking at the traditional programming languages, RPG and CL. They were not the best tools for the job, but yes, it could be achieved, but we knew there were better development tools out there. With all the options these days to make life easier for ourselves, we decided to use the best tools for the job. So we looked at all the open source offerings that were available and decided on Node.js, as we already had in-house expertise. For the database option, as we know DB2 runs so well and is so integrated with the IBM, we stuck with using that database instead of using any of the open source database offerings. Of course, as Node loved JSON, it seemed obvious to choose that for the configuration and storing of local data. So what development tools did we use? Having used and been very impressed with Microsoft Visual Studio Code, VS Code, that had to be our main development IDE, and being free and open source might have had a bearing on it too. We used SSH extensions within Visual Studio Code that seamlessly connected to our IFS with no issues. In our opinion, using open source, we had to have one tool in the mix for source control, Git. As we know again, this was readily available on our IBM. And for all our IFS shell involvement, we used the new Windows Terminal CLI, command line interface, for starting the Node server, checking Git repositories, etc. If you haven't seen the new Windows Terminal, it's worth taking a look at the video we produced on connecting Windows Terminal automatically via profile to our IFS. This can be seen on our YouTube channel. The link should be firing up on the screen as we speak. For the user interface, we use the Node Express framework with Bootstrap to ensure all looks neat and tidy for the user experience. And now on to security. As you can imagine, security plays a huge part in Making Tax Digital. As HMRC uses OAuth 2 as a security protocol, all communications have to be encrypted. Once the security has passed, it's all go. OAuth 2 doesn't share password data, but instead using authorization tokens to prove an identity between clients and service providers. OAuth 2 is an authentication profile that allows you to approve one application interacting with another on your behalf without giving away your password. Let me show you how this works. Step 1. The user, good old Vinny, says, "Hey FMTD, I would like you to be able to send tax returns to HMRC. FMTD replies, "Great, let me go and ask permission from HMRC. Step 2. FMTD says, "I have a user that would like me to send a VAT return. Can I have a request token?" "Sure, here's that token." Step number 3. FMTD says, "Okay Vinny, I'm sending you over to HMRC so you can approve. Take this token with you." Vinny replies, "Okay." Step number 4. Vinny says, "HMRC, I'd like to authorise this request token that FMTD gave me." HMRC replies, "Okay, just to be sure, you want to authorise FMTD to do X, Y and Z with your HMRC account?" Vinny replies, "Yes, that's correct." HMRC, "Okay, go back to FMTD and tell them you have permission to use their request token." "Okay, will do." Over to you, FMTD. It's all yours. Step number 5. FMTD says, "HMRC, can I exchange this request token for an access token?" HMRC replies, "Sure, here's your access token." And step number 6. FMTD, "I'd like to post this VAT return. Here's my access token." HMRC replies, "All done and thank you very much." In this scenario, our account users never had to share their HMRC account credentials with us. He simply delegated access using OAuth 2 in a secure manner. Moving on to HMRC development environments, if we can call it an environment. I used to have hair before the start of this project. HMRC provided a sandbox with all their APIs available. Unfortunately, this environment only contained canned data, everything hard-coded, all very 70-ish. Not dynamic in any sense of the word. Testing on their system had many drawbacks. If a customer submitted a VAT return for filing, they couldn't submit another one. You had to go through the process of creating a new VAT company. Again, not easy, as the new user process had to be achieved by calling another API, all very time consuming, and did increase the duration of our testing phase. Before the user can operate tax returns using MTD, they have to register to use MTD. This is a one-way process. Once signed up to MTD VAT, they cannot go back to their original way of using the government gateway. Seems a scary process for some users. Let me show you what the user experience is for this product. Firstly, they point their favourite browser, mine is Microsoft Edge today, at their IBM, using the port number that was specified during the setup. This port number is configurable, so can be changed if there are any conflicts. And straight onto the home page. Here we can see many of the options are disabled. This is because there is not a communications link to HMRC at this time. So let's make one by signing into the Government Gateway portal. Here we can see the URL has been redirected to the security portal. This is the user ID and password that was used to originally post the VAT returns. Nothing's changed there. As we are using the development sandbox, these are fictitious user IDs and passwords. The next stage is to import data into our product. We select an Excel file that has been exported from the Sage PC financial package and import those figures. Once imported, we can click the Returns button to show us all our VAT obligations. Remember, this is canned data. We can see 3 obligations that have already been filed. with the last one being the one we are going to submit today. Selecting the Submit button displays a confirmation screen with the figures we imported from Excel. The 9 VAT boxes that the original processing method used. Box 5 is highlighted as this is the actual amount that has to be paid to HMRC. In this example, just over £4,000. Submission has been successful. If we take a look at our transaction history, here we can see the return we have just made. These details are not returned from HMRC, but a table in DB2. A complete history of all the users' submissions to HMRC. We can also see the liabilities and payments made to the government. These figures are returned from HMRC. Just to show you how canned the data is, if we go back to the return screen and try to submit another return, it shows all the data prior to our submission, and if we try to submit it again, it says it already has been submitted. So the only way to test this is to create a new company and test the submission. All very poor, to be honest. Let me log out of HMRC and wrap up this demo. Once we were happy with our testing, before we could use this in production on the live HMRC systems, we had to get our software approved by HMRC. HMRC had difficulty grasping the fact that not everyone uses Windows or apps for their business, or being cloud-based. Our software resided on our client's IBM I and converses directly with HMRC and does not use any intermediaries, a one-to-one direct communications link. As you can imagine, security was crucial to the approval process. After approval, we had to access HMRC's production environment, and to be honest, this was not the end of our development phase. Further testing was required to prove our software and removed all the canned data scenarios using their sandbox. Once we were satisfied that the software had met the high standards required, it could be sold to our clients for all their government gateway VAT requirements. However, no testing environment nor proof of concept could be performed on there as there was only a development environment and a production environment at HMRC. This made testing for our clients impossible. The only way to prove our solution was to give a demonstration to our clients using our own live data. They had to sign up to MTD before they could use it. Once they had signed up, it was in live, and at this point MTD was the only way forward. They couldn't go back to their previous ways of submission. And to be honest, the move to MTD has gone very well, with minor changes in HMRC's APIs since the release. But this is all going to change, with the UK having left the European Union. Hooray! There will be changes there. Of the original 9 input boxes on the VAT return form, 4 of those relate to EU regulations. Also, this is not the end of the digital tax journey for HMRC, but only the start. HMRC's VAT department intends, in the near future, to ask all registered businesses to include all the purchasing and invoicing transactions to reconcile the VAT figures. This is a massive change and will require vast storage. Maybe it's time to start supplying storage. Other schemes are also planned to come aboard the Making Tax Digital bandwagon, such as corporation tax and income tax. We have no doubt that the IBM I will be able to cope with these extra demands. Keep up the great work on open source, IBM. If you have any questions about our customer story or would like a demo of our product, FMTD, please get in contact with us using any of the methods that's about to pop up on the screen. As always, a huge thank you to IBM for all the work on open source. This really has brought the machine into the modern day age. Thank you all for your time. So that's given you a quick insight of how we use open source on IBM I. Open source is now an integral part of IBM I. You and your companies should not ignore open source. You will regret it. I hope you found my presentation interesting and given you some food for thought. Thank you.